And welcome, I'm Exterminator, and this video today is actually going to be a kind of tips tutorial video for beginners in Factorio. It's it's going to be kind of short. There's a few things I want to show, and really I was kind of inspired to do this video because lately there's been a pretty big flow of newer players, and I see a lot of questions asked, pretty common ones that are just asked multiple times. Not that that's a bad thing. I had the same questions everybody else did when I started, but I'm hoping in this video my intention is to answer the most common questions I see, and hopefully just help people figure that out so they don't have to search around everywhere to figure it out. So yeah, let's get started. I would say probably one of the most common questions I see asked by people who just picked up the game and are just starting is something to the effect of, like, what is the most ideal Steam engine setup, or why is my Steam engine not working, or why does it have the unplugged icon even though I have everything set up correctly, things like that. And again, it's perfectly understandable. I had the exact same questions when I started, and it would have been nice if I could have found all of it in a video. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so to begin with, the most ideal in terms of efficiency and best ratios and all that, the most ideal furnace boiler to steam engine setup is 13 or 14 boilers. 13 boilers will have the whole setup run at 99% efficiency, and 14 boilers will have it run at 100. So it's really whichever one you want to do. I always go with 14 just because, my OCD has to be 100%. But yeah, so the most ideal setup, 14 boilers, well, one pump, 14 boilers to 10 steam engines. Okay, and one really quick thing here is to note is you do not actually need any pipes in this setup whatsoever. You obviously can, it doesn't hurt anything, and the usually it's kind of advantageous to put like underground pipe either between the pump and the first boiler or the last boiler in the steam engine, so you can walk through here instead of having to walk around the entire thing, especially once it gets bigger. But anyway, you can just connect everything right up to each other, and these steam engines just connect right to each other. So there's two ways to do this. You can either have your 10 steam engines in a big line here, like that, and that will work perfectly fine. Obviously you need your inserters and coal to get these working, but the other way to do it is you can do like 5 side by side. You can do it however you want. You can do like 8 and then 2 on the side. It would look kind of funny, but as long as you have 10 connected to the setup, it works fine. And this is the most ideal setup. This will run 14 boilers. This setup will run at 100% efficiency. Now, if I added coal to all of this, which I don't have enough, but if I added coal to all of this, everything would be fired up, temperature would be 100, all that. The problem is, though, is you're going to get this sign, and a lot of people get confused by this telling you that it's like unplugged even though you have everything working right. So pretty much the problem, and I think it's kind of funky, I really kind of think they should change this, but all you need to do is connect them to something that needs power. And as long as it's connected to something that is drawing power, that symbol will go away. I don't know, for some reason it thinks it, like, I don't know. It just has to be connected to something that needs power for it to work. So you see as I put a power line on each of these, it changes. Even though I have no coal or anything, so it's not actually working, that's how you get rid of this. This is a lot. I see this question a lot, is why is it doing this, or how do I get rid of this? So yeah, here's the most ideal, efficient setup. And in my experience and to my knowledge, you want to do them in kind of modular setups like this. So you'll need more power than this, so you do another one and another one, so on and so forth. It's not a good idea to put like 2 pumps with a pipe going to 28 boilers going to 20 steam engines. I don't think that ratio will work, and the pipes have a throughput maximum amount, so that won't work, and you obviously can't really use 2 pumps without pipes anyway, so just try to stick to this modular setup. So that is the first little tutorial bit. The second thing is, I see quite a lot of people ask about inserters and their behavior, specifically what side of a belt they're going to place on and what side of a belt they will grab from. And this is really important to know and to remember, because if you don't, or like before you know it, before I knew it, my setups were just all messed up and I couldn't figure stuff out, and it was really annoying. So let's start with the most important things. A inserter, regardless of what kind it is, will always grab. So it's going to grab from a belt and put into something. It's always going to grab from the side closest to it first, right? So it's not that it can't grab from both sides, it can, but it's always going to prioritize the side closest to it. This isn't that big of a deal since it can grab from both sides, but it's just something to kind of keep in mind, because you'll get something exactly like this where it's unbalanced, and sometimes that can cause problems, or your OCD, like mine, just doesn't allow that. But if you see, if I unrestrict this, it grabs from the close side as often as it can, but since there's nothing here, it will grab from here. But this whole side is empty because all the inserters, all these that need to take from it, are grabbing from the closest side. So that's that. But more importantly, inserters will always, there's no if, and, or but about this, they will always place an item on the opposite side of the belt from where the inserter is. So if I put this here, and I put a chest here and fill it with something, like iron, it's always going to place on the opposite side of the belt. Unless there's mods that add new inserters and stuff, but I won't go into that. With the normal inserters, no matter what kind, fast, normal, smart, or long-handed inserters, they will always place on the opposite side of the belt from where they are. So if I placed one here, it would place on this other side, and we would have a belt that both sides are full. Now, this can get really annoying, because there's some times where you're going to have a setup where something needs to be, say, on the inside of a belt rather than the outside, and you can't just put it on the other side. Like here I could just move this over here, but you're going to have a lot of times where that's not an option. So the next thing I want to go into is a really quick, kind of tricky way. It's pretty simple, really, but it took me a while to actually think to do this. So is side loading. And side loading is, sometimes it's a bad thing, but in the right situations you really should take advantage of it, because as you can see, it's putting it here, and this is side loading onto the closer side of the belt, which it will always do. It can never side load to the opposite side of the belt. So if you need something to go on a certain side of the belt, you just place a little belt here and side load. Which brings me to my next point, and it's not as important really to note, but I didn't know it and it kind of irritated me for a while, is we already went over grabbing from the side of a belt. It's always going to prioritize the side closest, but it'll do both. If you do it from the end, it's always going to prioritize the left side of the belt. If you're facing it, okay, we're facing it, it's always prioritizing the left side. It will grab from both sides. Okay, so if I were to cut this off and make this a fast insert to speed this up, see, it's only grabbing copper. It's just 100% prioritizing it. But if it runs out, it will grab both. But just something to note is it always prioritizes from the left side. And that goes for placing onto something as well. So if I, well, as you can see here, this one is placing onto this belt. It's always placing onto the left side. Just like how an inserter will place, when you place from the side, it'll always place on the opposite side. This will always, always, always place on the left side. There's no way to make this place on the right side. You see, it just stopped. When it couldn't place on the left side, it just stopped. So you have a lot more freedom when you're grabbing something than when you're placing it. But those are just a couple things to note, a couple little handy things to know. And something really quick that I didn't intend to put in here but is useful is you may have noticed that it left a piece of copper here. Let me just demonstrate this. If I reconnect this for a second and unconnect it, you'll see it leaves a piece of copper at the very end. It won't pick that up. There's this weird thing, it won't pick up, like if the thing's one tile close to it. So a lot of times what you do is you just take an extra tile, leave a space, and then it will pick stuff up at the very end. I guess it can't reach that close to it, but you'll see now it'll pick up every single piece. Right? So the same goes for from the side. If I were to do this and let's actually put one here and cut this off, you'll see it'll stop it won't grab this piece right here. So the same thing as this is it won't grab it. So try to always leave an extra space. Cut the belt off right before the inserter, not under it. And that brings me to my third little thing here, is this question I don't see asked as often, but I do see it, and it's really a good thing to know. It's not as important until you really get into mid or late game when you have a lot of stuff processing, but is people will ask, like, when should I upgrade my belt, or you know, what is the capacity or the throughput of each belt? And it's a pretty simple answer, but not something that you would just know unless you like tested it for a while. So we have yellow belt, red belt, and blue belt. You can see the different speeds they're moving, and this one moves twice as fast as this one moves 3 times as fast as that one. So it's not that this one moves twice as fast as this, because if it did, that would be 4 times as fast as this. Well, maybe it moves that fast, but what we're really focusing on is the capacity, the throughput. So a yellow belt, the maximum amount of items it can carry is 8 items per side. Now that's a little confusing because, it's like obviously you make it longer, there's going to be more than 8 items just stacked there. But fully compressed, like you see how this is, it's fully compressed. The max it can have is 8 things placing onto it per side. So, for example, if this were yellow belt in the middle here, I could only have 8 of these furnaces per side placing. If I had 9 on each side, or however many more, the belt's just not going to be able to hold that much. It just can't hold that much. The throughput would bog down. So there's the yellow belt. This one is twice as fast, so you can have 16 items per side. So with this, once you get into major processing, you can have 16 furnaces per side placing. And then your blue belt, for the longest time I thought it was twice as fast as the red one, or can hold twice as much rather. So I thought it was like 32 per side, but it's actually only 3 times the amount of your yellow one here. So that would be 24. You can have 24 things placing onto it per side, which is really quite a lot. This is really used kind of in the late game, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple, but it's just something that you wouldn't just know unless you did a lot of testing. So I'm just telling you now. And lastly, kind of to do with these furnaces here is really something that's just kind of good to know, is just good to have in your head, is the ratio between miners, like mining resources, and furnaces. There's 3 different kinds of furnaces, stone, steel, and electric. And you can see here, crafting speed is 1, crafting speed for this is 2, and this is also 2. So these two craft the same, but they will both craft twice as fast as a stone furnace. So, I mean, that's pretty obvious. You can just look at that. But what I really want to get into is the ratio of miners you can have down here. Miners you can have to furnaces. For your stone furnace, which is what you'll be using for a little while to start out until you get steel, it is a 2-to-1 ratio miners to furnaces. So 2 miners, if you had 2 miners, preferably 1 on each side of the belt, but don't need to go into that. But if you had 2 miners, that could support 4 stone furnaces. I'm not going to set this all up, but just for visual purposes. So 2 miners could support 4, 1 can support 2. I mean, you can do the math. It's a 2-to-1 ratio, which is, I mean, you can tell just by looking at this kind of, but if you don't want to do math, or you don't really know to look at all that stuff, it's good to know. And steel and electric furnaces, since they smelt twice as fast, it is a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you have 8 steel furnaces or 8 electric furnaces, you're going to need 8 miners to keep up with it efficiently. It doesn't hurt to have more miners, but it'll start to back up your ore. If you have less miners, obviously not all your furnaces will be smelting. And it's not like exactly 1-to-1, it's like 0.98 or something to 1, but it's close enough. So you can see I have like no ore in a lot of this except here because this side's all backed up because of what we discussed earlier. But for this many furnaces, you know, I would need like I have 12 on each side. So for I would need like 24 electric miners to support all of this. So, yeah, it's just something good to know. So you kind of know your ratios. You can plan out a little better. You're not really wasting a ton of resources, so on and so forth. So I hope this helped you out. If you know, I know to a lot of people this is just like, you know, well, duh. Like, why are you telling me this? Because I mean, like once you figure it out, you know it, and it seems pretty simple. It's a pretty simple concept in the game once you know it. But for people who just got the game, and this included myself, and probably for almost everybody who first starts out, they're not going to know most of this. And you can research or ask the question, which, you know, asking questions is good, but I would have liked to have just been able to watch a video and have all my basic questions answered. I'm sure you'll have more than what I covered in this, but these are the things I see asked most commonly, and I just kind of wanted to, you know, make a video and answer them. I could like write a big post answering all of them, but um, you know, I make videos. I don't write articles. But anyway, if you have more questions besides what I covered in here, feel free to post down in the comments, and I will try my best to answer them. And I do hope you enjoyed. I hope this helped you out. You know, if not, then thanks for stopping by. But yeah, if you enjoyed and it was helpful, please leave a like and consider subscribing so other people can find out about this, and hopefully it will help them too. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.